Today we're going to test this 489 cubic inch big block Chevy. It is out of my 85 Regal. We've dynoed this before when it was new on a DTS 4000, so we know how much power it makes. Currently the engine is about 7 years old and the cam has a Burnell cam lobe. I think it's on the number 1 or number 2. That's it, number 1 or number 3 cylinder. In that status, it's run 1090 at 127 miles an hour in a 4,000 pound car. So it's probably not down on power, but we're going to do some baseline testing, figure out what it actually makes in its current status, and we're going to do a cam swap with a slightly tweaked cam and see how much power we can pick up.
We will also be investigating 1/8 rockers, oil viscosity, and high volume versus standard volume oil pumps on this engine. This dyno is new to Josh, new to me, and it had recently been moved from one location to another. We're going through some debugging in the background and trying to figure it out, and I'll give some more background into it at the end of this video. This is an 11:1 engine. It's got the chassis headers from the car. We're running on 91 octane, and our initial warm-ups are on 33 degrees. Our later comparison tests are 35 degrees. There's a lot to unpack here with the test matrix. Overall, we probably did 20 plus pulls if you include baselining the dyno and making sure the dyno was working correctly. The oil pressure, oil temp, and that's your coolant. No, excuse me, that's your coolant. Warm up pull at 300 RPM per second, 4,500 to 7,000. This is our second day on the dyno, and we're basically just verifying that the engine repeats from the previous day. Surface level, the numbers look pretty good and it looks somewhat repeatable. What I haven't told you to this point is 8 years ago this engine made around 723 horsepower. So given that information, we were kind of scratching our heads a little bit as to why the reading was so far off. So the sampling rate on this is a lot. That's why we have these what looks like noise, but Josh will explain that. Go ahead.
So the black line is today's data, the red line is from 2 days ago on Wednesday. We're showing uncorrected numbers that we're making better power today. Barrow's up almost a full inch of mercury today, so that likely explains the better power overall pulled today. We can see a comparison if we switch over to the corrected data though, that we're down on power a little bit today with correction factors. Part of that is due to our correction factor over here. We noticed the previous correction factor data, the barrow was about an inch of mercury low compared to the actual measured barometric pressure, which we corrected today, so some of that unfortunately reflects in our corrected power numbers.
So last time at the track I was playing around with jetting, chasing a problem, and I had assumed I had 88s in the rear. I actually had a 95. We'll show you on the dyno chart, but just going down 2 sizes in the primary made it carry a lot better. This next test should be better. So we also added a couple degrees of timing for this test. If you look at that naming convention at the top, this thing is basically just drowning in fuel. It wasn't a big enough swing to show a huge difference. On the next test, we're going to take 7 sizes out of the secondary and then show you what that does. So we're going to show you some numbers in lambda on this pull. Lambda is a universal number for fuel. So it could be E10, E20, methanol, natural gas, whatever. Your target is the same. We're shooting, you know, in the midpoint 85, something like that. Go for it.
All right, so what we've got here, the black line is our last run after pulling some jet out of the back. The previous two runs are in red and blue. Red is got 2 jets out of the primary. Blue was original jet changes. As we pulled out some additional fuel, our power is definitely picking up a lot up top. The pulls are actually starting to sound a little bit cleaner too. You can see out here at 6,500, we're up 40 horsepower
Uncorrected.
uncorrected.
So getting on the right track. In chart form, this is a better look at what the lambda range means. Bottom right corner. And then you can compare it against some sample fuels to the left. So we're going to target 0.79 to 0.92, and that's where that comes from. So this run is without dyno exhaust. We'll watch our gauge here. We'll show you the numbers on the dyno after. Better for back pressure. So just to check our own sanity, taking the exhaust off did help. It actually created a little bit of a negative pressure, which is interesting. It might be too close to the outlet of the pipe, I would assume. So we're going to use this as our baseline data. Here is our corrected power. It's not after we screwed around with the barrel correction factors, I think it's still reading low, but we'll use it as is and not change any of the calibration stuff for the next time. Go ahead.
So this is a reference. This is with exhaust on. Over here we've got no exhaust, no dyno muffler, I should say. If you look here, this is a 0.8 lambda line across here. The purple line is the left bank of the engine. If we look over here, you can see this is also the 0.8 line. Pulling the exhaust off did lean it out a little bit. And that trend continues for both banks.
Baseline testing is done. The next step is to pull the cam out and show the damage. So we have the motor ripped apart. We really didn't know what our fate would be. We killed a lifter on day 0 test and tune. This car's made its best pass on pump gas. We ran 1097, and in the return lane it started making a clicky clack noise. So this is our clicky clack noise. It looks like it's been run that way for a while, but every once in a while it would turn onto this flat spot and make that clicky clacky noise. A judgment call was made. We looked at it and threw a used spare pair of lifters on the cam and continued on. Yeah, it was this one. Didn't get any worse. It's pitted near the edge. It looks like it was making any more metal, so from 2050 to 1030. At the end of that pull, I noticed the pressure really fall off quickly. We were able to go back to the data and compare it to a run that we had 2050 oil. So the black line's 1030. This was the only test we did, the 1030 oil. We went back to 2050 for the rest of the testing, and we tracked our improvement of our oil pressure just by adding a half quart. So this is adding 1 full quart of oil from blue line to the black line. So peak to peak, the power difference is roughly 5 horsepower. Depending on where you look on the comparison map here, it's anywhere between 5 and 10, which is what we kind of expected. In the video, it makes really good oil pressure on dyno. For reference, this engine is between 3 and 3.5 on the mains and about 2.5 on the rods, and that's basically why I put a high volume pump in it. I'm curious at this point of, okay, change the Melling Select high volume pump for the Melling Select standard volume pump, and that is what we're going to do next and see how much power that is worth. A standard volume oil pump. So this test is on a different day, so there's some day-to-day variation, so we put the correction factor in. Both versions of tests had 1.8 ratio rocker arms in the intake. If you go back to how the oil pressure looked, it went right off the relief valve right away at 76 or 77 psi, just like the previous oil pump. Basically this means that really in real life didn't do a whole lot, and the power curve kind of reflects that.
1.7s everywhere. The red line is 1.8 on the exhaust, 1.7s on the intake. The blue line is 1.8 everywhere, and the green line is 1.8 on the intake only, 1.7s on the exhaust.
That's a pretty big loser.
Sucks time tit.
Yeah. That sucks, because intuitively you'd think that having a intake valve open further would help, but not in this case.
No.
This is the old cam versus new cam uncorrected. As you can see, in uncorrected form, they look very similar. The old cam carried a little bit more, maybe 10 to 15 horse if you go peak to peak. This doesn't really tell you the whole story. We're going to go and change this to corrected. I'll show you here. It almost reverses the story when it's corrected. So we're at peak for the new cam. We are almost 668 at 6,300, and we'll call peak for the old cam 6,500, 637. It's quite a bit of a difference. Mentioned that the barrel was an inch different between both days. Temperature was about the same. Humidity was different on the data, 25% versus 74%. So there's a huge difference just with that correction factor. Now, in the car, it seems to do about the same. Maybe I could be having some issues with the car because this new cam should be doing a lot better, but it's really
it still runs 1080, 1090 pretty consistently. One thing that I do want to show you, I'm going to go back to the uncorrected to show you. There's this jump up right here, and that can actually be felt in the car. You can see it on this scale better. It's just a game of grid lines. It makes the jump up look more. But if I go to the servo data, the dyno can feel it as well. It's trying to pull the engine speed back down to 300 RPM per second, and it just kind of spikes up for a bit and then comes back. And definitely can feel that in the car. The new cam, not so much. The new cam is a little bit more smoother. It doesn't call it light off at 6,000 RPM. It's just smooth and kind of it carries similarly, but it feels a little bit different. I'll say that. So, unfortunately, the damage was a little bit too deep to regrind. I had sent it in to a cam company, and they said it was through the hardness layer and it was junk. I ran out of time in getting another custom grind cam, so I went on to Comp's website to find something they had in stock. And they don't have really that many big black Chevy options in the kind of the range that I needed. But I found one that was almost exactly the same as what was in the engine. If you look at the lift numbers, you know, they're 25 thousandths shorter on the new cam. If you look at duration numbers, the new one's a little bit less duration, a couple degrees here and there on both the intake and exhaust. If you look at lobe separation, that's the same. Cam that came out was a 4/7 swap. The cam I put in is a standard firing order. The cam that came out was 4 degrees advance ground into the cam. The cam that I put in is straight up, and I installed it 4 degrees advance. The lower lift numbers on the new cam kind of sparked that idea of maybe we can throw a 1/8 rocker on it and see what would happen. The cam cards give you your fixed point to fixed point references to lift and duration in degrees. You can draw the two humps representing exhaust and intake, and your x-axis is degrees of the engine and y-axis is your lift. So what I focused on was that overlap triangle. You can do in your plus and minuses, you can figure out how many degrees is the exhaust and intake overlapping. So on that damage cam, it's hard to see, but it's there. 86 degrees of overlap. The cam I chose was around 84 degrees of overlap, and that's just based on theoretical cam card information. Going through this process, I believe on the new cam card, the intake and exhaust opening and closing events were at 20. The specs way at the bottom are at 50. They were taken from their website.
A little bit about this dyno cell. It's got the Superflow sound room set up, and it was originally used for endurance testing Honda K-Series engines. Josh acquired this secondhand, and we pieced it back together and started testing natural gas engines. And the reason why it's somewhat unique is you don't see natural gas setups in a cell like this. So our challenge was setting this dyno up for gasoline and then finding the programming to do the automated acceleration test. And we think we have it all figured out, and we have believable data. So here's a little bit about the inside of the dyno. We're set up for multiple types, carbureted, EFI, and there's a big pipe for natural gas. It's really set up for endurance. There's 1,000 gallons of water that gives us plenty of cooling capacity. Obviously not needed for short pulls, but it will keep an engine cool under high load for hours. So something that you don't normally see in a cell setup.